Kirk's actions have only made everything worse. Instead of owning up to his mistakes and admitting that he messed up again, he's been trying to paint himself as the victim. He's telling anyone who will listen that he's been unhappy in his marriage for a long time. According to him, his affair with Jasmine was a way to escape all the problems he was facing at home with Rashida. It's as if he's trying to justify his behavior and make it seem like he's the one who's been suffering. Just days after this, he separated from Rashida, and sources say that he even reached out to his legal team for advice on how to handle a divorce. Rashida has been through so much, and at this point, it seems like Kirk still refuses to take full responsibility for the hurt he caused. Instead of accepting his wrongs, he's trying to shift the blame and make himself look like the victim. That has only made things more complicated for everyone involved. But this situation didn't happen overnight. For years, Rashida has been dealing with his unfaithfulness and all the lies that have come with it. She could have left him many times, but she chose to stay. And in some ways, it allowed Kirk to keep treating her poorly. In some ways, Rashida has enabled Kirk's behavior by continuing to put up with it. It's easy to say she should have walked away, but relationships are complicated, and leaving isn't always an easy choice. For years, she stood by him, trying to keep their family together despite all the drama. Rashida has been vocal about her decisions, making it clear that no one can judge her for what she chose to do. She's been very open about how her life isn't easy for anyone to understand unless they've walked in her shoes. In an interview with Essence, she said, "A lot of times, people who speak on that could never wear my shoes. A lot of women haven't even been in a relationship for 5 minutes, let alone 20 years, so you can't speak about the decisions that I make." Rashida made it clear that at the end of the day, it's her life to live, and she didn't let anyone's opinions change the way she approached her relationship. She prayed about it, followed her heart, and trusted that she was making the right choice. Rashida admitted that it wasn't always easy, especially when she was going through a deep and dark time in their marriage. But she also mentioned that Kirk had made a 360-degree change and worked hard to show her that he was committed to their relationship. That's one reason why their marriage was able to continue for as long as it did. But it wasn't without challenges, and she was honest about how difficult things had been. Kirk's journey to realize how much he needed Rashida took a turning point when he was hospitalized. That was the moment he understood he needed her back in his life, but this wasn't the fairy tale it might sound like. His decision to ask for Rashida's support while he was recovering didn't sit well with Jasmine. In fact, she's been furious ever since. Sources say that Kirk had already discussed the possibility of marrying Jasmine once his divorce from Rashida was finalized, so when he suddenly wanted Rashida back, it broke Jasmine's heart. The betrayal was hard to digest. It's like he'd been playing both women, and now they were both hurt by his actions. As the saying goes, you lose them the way you gain them. And Jasmine is now learning that painful lesson. Let's not forget who Kirk is. He has a long history of manipulating both Rashida and Jasmine, and this situation is no different. While we can wish for his recovery, one thing is clear. This is going to get messier before it gets better. The tension between Jasmine and Rashida is thick, and it seems like everyone is caught up in Kirk's web of lies and deceit. Kirk's request for Rashida to be by his side after his health scare has gotten people talking. Fans on social media are split over what they think Rashida should do. Some are questioning why Jasmine keeps acting as if she's the victim when she knowingly had a child with a married man. Having a baby by a married man comes with consequences, one fan pointed out. They believe that Jasmine knew the situation and should accept the reality of it. Others are rallying behind Rashida, telling her to take charge of her happiness and move on. Some fans are even saying that if Kirk were to pass away, Rashida would be better off without him, pointing out that she deserves peace and shouldn't have to deal with a disrespectful man who has caused her so much pain. On the other hand, some fans still wonder whether Rashida should forgive Kirk for everything he's done to her and stand by his side in the hospital. After all, they've been married for 25 years, and some feel that maybe she should be there for him in his time of need. However, there's also a growing sentiment that Rashida has no obligation to stay by his side since he chose to be with Jasmine over her in the first place. At the end of the day, it's a decade.
I do know, I'm not.
So the agreement was that you get canon the third weekend of every month. Do you do that?
No, we didn't really agree to that because the last time...
It's signed on paper.
This is what I just want to say. It's not gonna ever be exactly what you want it to be. But
I
one
get
thing
that
you
now.
ain't gonna never, ever, ever have to question or worry about is that boy getting the love and the same treatment as all the other kids when he's around. Always been concerned, and I've always loved him since the first day I
heard from you.
You don't have to hear from me because Cannon knows what's up. That's all that
You
matters.
understand why it's a little weird now? It seems
but
like
you know it's
as
not weird.
genuine because
No, it's genuine.
now all of a sudden.
I've always been there since I decided to forgive this. If I forgave him, I gotta take everything that comes with it, and that's canon. Y'all figure some out so we can get this boy on.
Rasheeda Frost had finally reached her limit. For a long time, she had endured the disrespect from Jasmine, who seemed determined to come between her and her husband, Kirk. Jasmine had repeatedly tried to interfere in their marriage, undermining everything Rasheeda had worked so hard to build. But this time, Rasheeda wasn't going to stay silent or allow Jasmine to continue with her manipulative behavior. She was done being passive and letting Jasmine dictate the terms of her life. It was time for her to take a stand. As soon as the two women faced each other, Rasheeda didn't hold back. She made it very clear that she was fed up with Jasmine's repeated attempts to destroy her family. The tension between them was thick, and it was clear that the years of frustration had built up. Rasheeda wasn't just angry at Jasmine for trying to come between her and Kirk. This was about something much bigger. This was about reclaiming control over her own life and peace of mind. Rasheeda wasn't going to let anyone, not even Jasmine, disrupt her happiness anymore. Jasmine, as expected, tried to defend herself. She attempted to justify her actions and explain why she had been acting the way she did. However, Rasheeda wasn't willing to hear any excuses. There was no room for explanations when it came to what Jasmine had done. Rasheeda's words were sharp, and they cut through the air with such force that there was no doubt about her intentions. She was done being manipulated. Her message was clear. Enough was enough. No more disrespect. No more attempts to tear her family apart. Rasheeda wasn't backing down. As the argument grew more intense, it became obvious that this wasn't just about the tension between Rasheeda and Jasmine. This confrontation was about something much larger. It was about Rasheeda, asserting her power, her worth, and her right to live her life the way she chose. For years, Rasheeda had been the one trying to keep the peace. She had spent time and energy focusing on her businesses, her family, and her personal growth. She had tried to rise above the chaos and stay focused on what really mattered. But now, in this moment, Rasheeda wasn't going to allow anyone, especially not Jasmine, to dictate the course of her life. Rasheeda was no longer the woman who would silently endure disrespect. She was standing her ground, and she wasn't afraid to show it. As the heated exchange continued, Rasheeda's determination only grew stronger. It wasn't just about defending her marriage anymore. It was about standing up for herself as an individual. Rasheeda had worked too hard and fought too long to let someone like Jasmine take it all away from her.
You don't know because you don't.
I do know, I'm not.
So the agreement was that you get canon the third weekend of every month. Do you do that?
No, we didn't really agree to that because the last time...
It's signed on paper.
This is what I just want to say. It's not gonna ever be exactly what you want it to be. But
I
one
get
thing
that
you
now.
ain't gonna never, ever, ever have to question or worry about is that boy getting the love and the same treatment as all the other kids when he's around. Always been concerned, and I've always loved him since the first day I
heard from you.
You don't have to hear from me because Cannon knows what's up. That's
So
all
now
that
you
matters.
understand why it's a little weird now. It seems
but
like
you
it's
know
not
it's
as
not weird.
genuine
No,
because
it's genuine.
Now all of a sudden,
I always been there since I decided to forgive this. If I forgave him, I gotta take everything that comes with it, and that's Cannon. Y'all figure some out so we can get this boy on.
Her business, her family, her personal happiness, it was all on the line. And she wasn't going to let anyone threaten it. This was the first time in a long while that Rashida had allowed herself to be this direct, this vocal, and this forceful. She wasn't afraid to stand up for herself anymore. For so long, Rashida had been the one trying to maintain peace, the one who took the high road. But now, she had reached her breaking point. She wasn't going to let Jasmine or anyone else tear down the life she had built. This confrontation was about more than just Kirk or their marriage. It was about Rashida asserting her own identity and showing that she would not be walked over anymore. Rashida's strength in that moment was undeniable. She wasn't just standing up to Jasmine, she was standing up for everything she had worked so hard to build. Every aspect of her life, her career, her family, her personal growth, was being threatened, and Rashida wasn't about to let that happen. She had spent years creating a life she could be proud of, and Jasmine's attempts to destroy it would not succeed. As the confrontation reached its peak, it became clear that Rashida had won this battle. She had finally taken control of her narrative, and she had shown Jasmine that no matter how hard she tried, she would never succeed in breaking apart Rashida's family. The power had shifted in that moment, and Rashida had proven that she wouldn't tolerate any further interference in her life. This may not have been the end of the drama between Rashida and Jasmine, but it was a pivotal moment. Rashida had shown that she was no longer willing to let anyone, no matter how persistent or manipulative, disrupt her peace. She had reclaimed her power, her dignity, and her sense of self. And in doing so, she had shown the world just how strong, resilient, and unapologetically powerful she truly was. As the